Chapter 1. A Strange Job Offer. One spring morning, Sherlock Holmes and I were sitting in our rooms at Baker Street when a young woman arrived. Her name was Miss Violet Hunter. She was a governess, a woman who lives with a family and teaches their children. She had recently lost her job and needed work badly. "Mr. Holmes," she said, "I have received a job offer, but the conditions trouble me. I would like your advice." Holmes leaned back in his chair. "Tell me everything." Miss Hunter explained that she had visited a job agency, and an agent had introduced her to a man named Jeffro Rucastle. Mr. Rucastle was a large, cheerful man with a round red face and friendly eyes. He wanted a governess for his young son at his country home, a house called the Copper Beeches in Hampshire. "The salary he offered was very generous," said Miss Hunter. £100 a year, double what I usually earn. But there were conditions. "What kind of conditions?" Holmes asked. "First, he asked me to cut my hair short." Miss Hunter touched her long chestnut hair. "I have always been proud of my hair, Mr. Holmes. It was very difficult to consider. Second, he asked me to wear a specific electric blue dress whenever he requested it. Third, he said I must be willing to do whatever small thing he might ask, without question." Holmes frowned. "These are very unusual requirements for a governess." "Yes, I told him I needed time to think. He raised the salary to £120, but even so, I was not sure. That is why I have come to you." Holmes was quiet for a moment. "I must be honest with you, Miss Hunter," he said at last. "I do not like this. A governess might expect £40 a year, not 120. No one pays 3 times the going rate without a very strong reason hidden behind it. I would advise you not to take the job." Miss Hunter was quiet for a moment. Then she lifted her chin. "I have already made up my mind," she said. "I shall take the position." Holmes looked at her steadily. "Then I will not try to stop you. But I must say this. If you find yourself in any difficulty or any danger, do not hesitate to contact me. At any time, day or night, a telegram will bring me to your side." Miss Hunter looked up. "Danger?" she said. "What danger do you foresee?" Holmes shook his head. "I cannot say exactly, but something about this troubles me, Miss Hunter. Please do not hesitate to call for me." After she was gone, Holmes stared into the fire. "There is something wrong at the Copper Beeches, Watson," he said quietly. "I do not know what it is yet, but I am sure of it." Chapter 2. Life at the Copper Beeches. 2 weeks passed with no news from Miss Hunter. Then, late one evening, a telegram arrived. It read, "Please come to the Black Swan Inn, Winchester, tomorrow by noon. I need your help urgently. Violet Hunter." The next morning, Holmes and I took the early train to Hampshire. As we traveled, the city gave way to open fields and rolling hills. Watson admired the pretty farmhouses and hedgerows in the countryside. "Do not be fooled by the beauty, Watson," said Holmes. "The countryside can be a very dangerous place. In a city, your neighbors can hear you call for help. Out here, no one can hear anything at all." We arrived in Winchester and found Miss Hunter waiting for us at the Black Swan Inn. She looked pale and anxious. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I have much to tell you. I have been in my new position at the Copper Beeches for almost 2 weeks," said Miss Hunter. "The house is at the end of a long lane, surrounded by copper beech trees, trees with dark red leaves. It is beautiful, but very isolated. The nearest village is several miles away. The household is strange in every way. Mr. Rucastle is large and cheerful, always laughing. He tells funny stories at dinner and seems genuinely pleased with my arrival. But his wife is quite the opposite. Pale and thin, with cold gray eyes, she speaks very little and watches everything in silence. Their son Edward is about 6 years old, but he is a horrible little creature. His favorite game is killing cockroaches with his slipper. Mr. Rucastle had a daughter from his first marriage, but that she had gone to Philadelphia. He said she could not get along with her stepmother and had chosen to leave. There are only 2 servants. Mr. Toller is a big, rough man with gray hair and a beard, who always smells of alcohol. His wife is hard-faced and unfriendly. She refuses to answer any questions about the house or the family. And there's a large mastiff dog. It is kept in a kennel during the day, but at night Mr. Toller releases it to walk around the grounds. I have been warned never to go outside after dark." Holmes nodded. "And the strange requests? Have they begun?" "Yes," said Miss Hunter. "Several times Mr. Rucastle asked me to put on the blue dress and sit in a specific chair in the drawing-room. The chair always faced away from the window. Then he told funny stories, so funny that I could not help but laugh. I did not understand why he wanted me to sit there and listen. And then, one afternoon I grew suspicious. I hid a small mirror in my handkerchief. While I sat in the chair, I held the mirror at an angle. Through it I could see the window, and outside the window, standing in the lane, was a young man. He was watching the house. He looked very sad. "And what happened next?" I asked. Then I noticed Mrs. Rucastle watching me with a sharp look. "Jeffro," she said, "there's a rude man on the road who keeps staring at Miss Hunter." Mr. Rucastle turned to me. "No friend of yours, I hope, Miss Hunter?" I told him I knew no one in the area. "Then kindly turn and wave him away," he said. So I did, and at that same moment Mrs. Rucastle pulled down the blind. "Interesting," said Holmes. "What else?" Miss Hunter continued. "One day I was going upstairs when I met Mr. Rucastle coming out of a door in the east wing. He had his keys in his hand, and his face was red with anger. He looked like a completely different man from the cheerful Mr. Rucastle I knew. He locked the door quickly and walked past me without a word." "And did you explore the east wing?" Holmes asked. "I tried. At the end of the corridor there is a locked door. I put my eye to the keyhole. It was dark inside, but I thought I could see movement, a shadow, perhaps a figure, sitting very still. I found a drawer in my room that was locked. By chance, one of my keys fitted it. Inside was a long coil of hair. chestnut brown, the exact same color and thickness as mine. I still had my own cut hair, so I took it out and laid the two coils side by side. They were identical, and I was completely puzzled. I put the hair back and said nothing to the Rucastles. Chapter 3. The Locked Room. When Miss Hunter finished, Holmes rose from his chair and began to pace up and down the room, his hands in his pockets, his face serious. "I believe I understand this case," he said. "You have been brought to the Copper Beeches to impersonate someone, and that person is imprisoned in the locked room. I have no doubt that it is Miss Alice Rucastle, Mr. Rucastle's daughter from his first marriage, who is said to have gone to America. You were chosen because you resemble her. Your height, your figure, and the color of your hair. Her hair was cut off, very possibly during an illness she suffered, and so yours had to be cut also. By chance, you found her hair in that drawer. The young man in the road was almost certainly the man she was going to marry. When he saw you in her dress, laughing happily and waving him away, he believed that Alice no longer wanted him. The dog is let loose at night to stop him from trying to reach her. As for why Mr. Rucastle did this, Alice had rights to a large share of the family estate. When she became engaged, her father feared losing control of that money. While Alice was still weak from her illness, he and his wife took control. They refused to allow her to see Mr. Fowler. They told everyone she had gone to America. In truth, they kept her locked in that room at the end of the east wing. Miss Hunter's face was pale with shock. "Is Toller still drunk?" Holmes asked. "Yes. I heard his wife say she could do nothing with him." "Good. And the Rucastles go out tonight?" "Yes." "Is there a cellar with a strong lock?" "Yes, the wine cellar." Holmes nodded. "You have behaved with great courage throughout this matter, Miss Hunter. I have one more thing to ask of you." "I will try." "What is it?" "Watson and I will be at the Copper Beeches by 7 o'clock. The Rucastles will be gone by then, and Toller will, we hope, be in no condition to cause trouble. That leaves only Mrs. Toller. If you could send her down to the wine cellar on some errand and lock the door behind her, it would help us greatly." "I will do it," she said. Chapter 4. The Empty Room. It was just 7 o'clock when Holmes and I arrived at the Copper Beeches. The sun was going down, and the copper beech trees shone like burnished metal in the last of the light. Miss Hunter was waiting for us at the front door. She had done exactly as Holmes instructed. "Mrs. Toller is locked in the cellar," she whispered. "Mr. Toller is asleep in his room. He has been drinking since this morning. The Rucastles are not yet back." "The keys to the locked room?" Holmes asked. "Here," she said, and held them up. "They are duplicates of Mr. Rucastle's." We moved quickly through the house and down the corridor in the east wing. There was an iron bar across the door, fastened with a cord. Holmes cut the cord and removed the bar. Then he tried the keys until one turned in the lock. He pushed the door open. The room was empty. Holmes stepped inside quickly. There was a small bed, a table, and a basket of linen. Nothing else, no sign of anyone. There's been some villainy here, said Holmes, his face dark. Rucastle guessed our plan and moved her before we could arrive. But how? I asked. Holmes looked up. Above us was a skylight open to the evening sky. He gripped the frame and pulled himself up onto the roof. Ah, yes, he called down. Here is a long ladder propped against the eaves. That is how it was done. But the ladder was not there when the Rucastles left, said Miss Hunter. Holmes dropped back into the room. Then he came back and did it. He is a clever and dangerous man. He paused, listening. And unless I am mistaken, that is his step on the stair now. Watson, have your pistol ready. A moment later, Mr. Rucastle appeared in the doorway. He was breathing hard, his face red with fury. He looked around the empty room, then turned on Holmes. "You villain!" he cried. "Where is my daughter? Spies and thieves! I have caught you. You are in my power." He turned and ran back down the stairs.
"He is going for the dog!"
Miss Hunter cried. "I have my revolver," said I. "Close the front door," Holmes said quickly, and we all rushed down the stairs together. We had barely reached the hall when we heard the baying of the dog, and then a scream of terrible pain. An elderly man with a red face came staggering in through a side door. It was Toller, shaking and barely able to stand. "The dog!" he gasped. "Someone has loosed the dog. It has not been fed for 2 days. Quick, or it will be too late." Holmes and I ran outside and around the side of the house. There was the huge, starving animal, its jaws at Rucastle's throat, while he writhed and screamed on the ground. I raised my revolver and fired. The dog fell. We carried Rucastle inside and laid him on the sofa. He was badly hurt, but alive. I did what I could for him. Mrs. Rucastle knelt beside her husband, weeping. Then the door opened and Mrs. Toller walked in. Rucastle had let her out of the cellar himself when he came back before going upstairs. "Ah, miss," she said, looking at Miss Hunter, "it is a pity you did not tell me what you were planning. I could have told you that your efforts were not needed." "Ha," said Holmes, looking at her keenly. "I think Mrs. Toller knows more about this matter than anyone else." "Yes, sir, I do, and I am ready to tell you everything." "Then please sit down," said Holmes. "There are several things I still do not understand." Mrs. Toller folded her hands and began to speak. "I was Miss Alice's friend, and I am glad to tell you everything. Mr. Fowler came to me some weeks ago. He was a kind-spoken, generous gentleman, and he asked for my help. I kept my husband supplied with drink so he would not interfere. I put the ladder in place myself this evening before the master went out. Miss Alice climbed up through the skylight, and Mr. Fowler was there waiting for her." She paused. I was glad to do it. That poor girl deserved better than this house. "We owe you an apology, Mrs. Toller," said Holmes. "You have cleared up everything that puzzled us." Epilogue, after the Copper Beeches. Mr. Fowler and Miss Alice were married the very next day in Southampton, and soon after they sailed for the island of Mauritius, where Fowler got a government job. Mr. Rucastle survived, but he was never the same man again. He spent the rest of his days at the Copper Beeches, looked after by his wife and the Tollers, who knew too much about his past for him to send them away. Miss Violet Hunter was now the head of a school in Walsall, where she was greatly respected. The end.